And welcome to the channel. This is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing Your Honor, episode number 6, part 6. If you've not hit the sub button and the bell, please do so. Hit that upvote. Full spoilers are ahead, and we are starting now. We're going to jump right into the last 5 minutes because that changes everything. I mean, there's a lot of important things that happen in this episode, and we're going to talk about it, but the last 5 minutes changes the entire direction of the show. And so basically, Michael has figured out who the blackmailer is. It's a guy named Trevor. He wants a boat. That's it. He gets a boat for him. He meets him at a dock, in which he's going to do sort of the deal. Little does he know, Jimmy Baxter is fully aware that Michael, well, not completely fully aware. He thinks it was Michael. It was actually Adam, but he thinks, he knows Michael was involved in Rocco's death, and he's there to kill Michael. But little does Jimmy know is that Lee has gotten a lead and evidence on Carlo killing Kofi Jones, and he's going to be put on trial. So in the middle of this moment where Michael is going to be killed by Jimmy, he tells Jimmy, hey, I can get your son off. He's going to be put on trial for murder, for killing Kofi. And a deal is made. And then in the midst of this, a very powerful moment, a major change for the character of Michael. Trevor's sitting there on the ground, and Jimmy just simply says, what does he know? And Michael looks at him in the eye and says everything, knowing that he's sealing Trevor's fate and Trevor will be killed, Trevor being the blackmailer. It's a lot to go over. We're going to break down the different parts as we go through, but initial reactions, guys, I didn't see any of this shit coming.
The Trevor guy looks like the hitman Trevor from The Office, the one that Angela hires to take out shit.
Forgot the character name.
Yeah, and I'm disappointed. Anyway, doesn't matter. This is, we talk about it and we preface every episode with it. Like, we don't know how many more twists and turns they're going to be able to make that are going to be believable. But at this point, like, it's pretty much free game. Every time they add something new, it shows the characters and the lengths they're willing to go. Like you said, Brian, the end of this episode, when he basically talked, Jimmy Baxter into killing his problem off, that was insane. Like, he convinced him, oh yeah, he knows everything, and takes him out. And he got rid of his problem for him. And the fact that he's getting ready to put a man who is convicted of a hate crime and a murder, and he's doing a lot of other stuff. He's dealing drugs with the Desire crew, and he is an awful human being. And he's like, you know what? If you let me go, I'll get him off. So it's the depths someone's willing to go to survive is.
And this was to save his own neck, not Adam's.
Oh, yeah. Because to me, that's a character revelation, because he could have basically said, you know what, it was me, I'm sorry, and then he could have killed him, and then Adam would have been safe.
Let's not forget that because his son walked in, Jimmy stopped this guy from attacking him then and there, because he's like, do you want me to kill them both? And Jimmy just makes him back off then and there because he didn't want to kill his son. So he could have sacrificed himself and saved his son because Jimmy Baxter just thought it was him. But then and there in that moment, he saved his own skin. Like, so this was totally for him, and Jimmy even spelled it out that he's like, I know it was you. So the assumption on Jimmy's part is 100% it was him. His son wasn't involved. Like, even finding the inhaler in the son's room and everything, he didn't, piece it together. His thought was it couldn't have been the boy, so he could have saved his son there.
It was in the bathroom.
I think he found the bathroom.
Oh, he found it. Okay, well, yeah, but it would have been, well, yeah, if he found it in the bathroom, then I guess he could have thought it was him.
He could have thought it was anybody's. It's free game.
Right. True. But even then he heard he could have put it together from the call. I mean, that clearly wasn't Michael on the call. It didn't sound like a man that old. But I feel like Jimmy perhaps didn't want to kill a kid. Like, maybe that's sort of a soft spot he's got to some degree. But Michael could have saved his son there. But I feel like this is us watching his descent to the point till he gets to the point where he's at some point in the series pulling the trigger himself. Like here it
Yeah.
was he killed a guy via deception, but we're going to get to a point where he sees it's advantageous to himself that it solves his problems for him to maybe kill Jimmy Baxter or his numbers two or maybe even Carlo. If it benefits him, and he's going to do the job himself because he's already killed via Jimmy, by proxy there. That said, the blackmailer, how shitty is that dude? That it's not necessarily evil, but shitty. And not only did he blackmail him for, over $200,000, but just for a boat, and then thought so little of it that he's like, "Hey man, you should come out with me sometime." No, I'm serious. Yeah, we can get some drinks. That's what he was saying before, Jimmy grabbed them both.
Yeah.
He thought so little of the shitty little thing he did that he's like, "Hey, let's go get some drinks. This will be fun." He wanted to celebrate getting his boat.
Yeah, and the way that Michael finds, I mean, it establishes when he meets his father, Ed, that Trevor's just a shitty guy. Like, he goes and he was shitty in the womb. I love that whole speech about was 60 something cigarettes he smoked, afraid that he was going to lose his son during birth. But then when he was born, he was just a shithead, and he's been disappointed in him ever since. So, yeah, it goes in on how shitty of a guy Trevor is as a character. I think, when he was killed at the end of the episode, my initial thought was, well, okay, that not important. That's plot lines dropped, moving on. And then I thought, not necessarily, and want to know your guys' opinion. The beginning of the episode, Michael has he meets with Nancy, the detective, and she's a really good detective, and he keeps bringing her in on all this stuff, and that shit's going to fall apart at some point, I think, and it could be here. She is the one who gives him the information on potentially which five guys it could be, the license plate, and it leads to Trevor. So when Trevor turns up dead or whatever happens with Trevor and it reaches her, she might put something together. This could be the thing that brings Michael's actions to her attention.
I don't. Yeah, it could.
Absolutely, yeah. 100% agree. And like you're saying, it's she's too much. She's too good at her job for him to do this. He's connected enough that he'd get other police officers to do this that wouldn't think twice about it. We've seen some cops in the show that are crappy enough that they may just say, "Hey, give me $100 and sure, man, I'll look this up for you." But he decided to, for some reason, for this just search of records, just searching records, to involve the best detective he knows. Which is a mistake because it's not something that he wants anyone investigating any farther. This is a matter he wants to handle privately himself. So weird choice on his part.
And she seems, I don't know if it's just her face or what, but it always seems like she's playing him. Like she's trying to trick him into doing something. And it could just be the person playing the role. It could just be her face or whatever it is. I don't know. But every time she looks at him, it's like she's catching him doing something. And I think that's what they're, foreshadowing, but it's to see it over and over. It's crazy looking because it legit looks like she is catching him doing something to further incriminate himself every time.
Yeah, there's been more than once where I've thought, if she, suspect anything, like, she's always in the right place at the right time, and it's like, I don't know. But then again, supposedly they have a really deep, long-term sort of friendship. They know each other really well, and maybe, she looks at him as this great guy, and perhaps she would never look at him as someone who would do these things. I don't know.
It's like she knows to some degree that, like, she's very suspicious and she has, all these loose clues and could piece it together to some degree, but she's, because of, like you both said, who she is in his life, she's in some degree of denial about, what's happening or his potential involvement. Like, just her knowing him, she thinks, no, there's no way he's involved. Why would he do that? Like I've known Michael for God knows how long. He's not that guy. But it's like deep down, she knows.
Speaking of poor decision making from Michael, let's talk about Adam. Yet again, so he's all in now. Is Fia, I believe, is the character, Rocco's sister, Carlo's
Yeah.
sister. And she's dealing with the grief of losing her brother, and we get a little scene where she talks about his ambitions and what he wanted to do in life. She really cared about her brother, and she lost him, and she knows that Adam lost his mother not that long ago, so they're sort of bonding over this loss, but clearly falling for each other in the process. And man, it's just crazy that he's engaging in a relationship with a mob boss's daughter whom he was involved in killing the brother. I mean, it's crazy, but this leads to probably saving his life potentially when they see that she's there at the dropping him off that one evening, and Jimmy wants to meet him, and I'm really curious to what the hell that scene's going to consist of. Jimmy meeting Adam.
Wait, did they actually see him there? Because I thought
See,
she was behind him. I don't think
she
they saw him.
was, but then he looked, and see that was and
I
at
thought the only thing
first,
they saw was Adam walk forward because Adam refused to tell her where he actually lived, and he walked around the corner.
that's what I thought, but the conversation he had with her made me think otherwise. But I'm not 100% sure.
The conversation kind of led me to believe that it was more that he potentially recognized the name from looking up. God, I can't remember the judge's name again.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael. From looking up Michael, that he's like Adam who? Because he knows that Michael has a son probably about her age, most likely. And it's like, and she's telling him very little, so he may just be generally weary because they do seem overly protected of Thea. So it may just be the sort of thing like, who's this guy dating my daughter? And, it's like I don't trust this, because the family does seem that protective of her.
Well, so go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying it's hard to gauge, with him because they're that protective.
Well, yeah, the brother picked up on that. We talked about that, Carlo, in the last episode, where he was super protective over Fia. What would make us believe that the dad's not the exact same way? Because in that conversation, he was talking about, you can go to school here. There's no reason for you to go anywhere. And then you can grow up and have kids and they can live here. So him being that protective over her, I don't think is that far of a stretch. I do think that, we talked about it right before about what this means as far as their relationship. We were talking about if it would be believable that Michael and Adam at the end of this show basically get off without the rap sheet or anything.
Yeah, you're hitting on exactly. But if this is some questionable writing, for we're hitting a zone of a lot of fucking coincidences. But you could absolutely be right, Larry. But yeah, we're getting into some questionable writing, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's like all the questions he asked. That's a general overprotective dad questions. And
Well, I'm just saying the fact that he's setting up a meeting with the guy who killed his son, and he's also trying to kill his father, and it's all sort of coincidental.
Well, let's not forget that, and we hand waved it because it is so well acted and everything, and the show is so good. But this show is built on coincidences. Kofi Jones, his mother just happened to be, on trial the day before, or the day everything went down, and in Adam's dad's courtroom at the same time, and then he just happens to run into Rocco's daughter, after he kills her. Like, even though he is like looking her up and everything, he just happens to catch her eye. The show is built on those type of little coincidences. Like, but also, I'm just saying, if they're writing Jimmy right, he can be sly about things. We've seen that, and he can investigate. But one thing we've seen Jimmy barely able to do is check his temper. So if he truly understood who Adam was, or at least the Adam that she mentioned, like I could see him losing it. I could see them not even be able to start the conversation as sort of jokey and as playful as they did, if that was the case, because he'd want some answers to things.
Well, and at what point, not Jimmy, but Adam, at what point is Adam going to be able to either alleviate the guilt and just let go of it, or he's going to tell Fia what happened? Like, if he's fallen for her, there's no way that he's going to be able to keep that a secret for forever. So it's very difficult to see what the next play is going to be. What is going to come from a lot of this? Because like you said, the jokey, is he going to lose it? There's so much at stake that I have no idea what the next, not the next card to be revealed, although that's not a horrible analogy. What is next to come? And that to me is the reason I keep watching it, regardless of whether all these coincidences are a little bit too convenient to be lining up like that. It still makes me want to watch it because I still want to know what's going to happen to each character and what's going to happen to them next, because you really don't have any clue. And I'm really curious.
Yeah, I agree completely, and you're probably right. It was confusing to me. It was one of those things where when the car is driving by, I'm like, he didn't see it, but I'm like, well, clearly he would recognize that car. So, and then that conversation with her, I was like, well, oh, he's plotting. He's plotting because he knows that he wants to meet Adam. So that's how I was looking at it. But no, you could be 100% right. He may not know at all. But then that was another thought I had. Well, shit, they're going to have a meeting, and then he's going to be surprised that this is the judge's son. And I'm like, that was sort of that questionable writing in my mind. I was like, I don't know about all that. But the more I think about it, you're very possibly right on this.
Well, yeah, and I see where you're coming from too, because the initial angle that they show her vehicle from makes it look like, oh, they absolutely saw her. But then you see her pass behind, and you're like, maybe not, probably not. Okay, yeah, she's like in the rearview mirror, and neither seems to be looking at it. Like, but it's like, all right, that previous angle, a little deceptive. Like, you were trying to build tension though.
But I think you also look at it, shows that little scene shows how little people pay attention when they're focused on something. Michael didn't even notice that they were parked out front. Adam didn't notice that there's people sitting in a car in front of their house staring at them. Yet, on the same note, the dad and Jimmy Baxter and his number two guy, or number one, they did the car roll 15 feet from them. So it's one of those things where, to me, it's kind of a play on showing how unaware people are
because they're so hyper focused.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's true. Like, I had a statistics class in college, and they talked about, notice this, which car is the most color, like what color you see the most of this car. And I'm looking around, and you're not thinking it's anything, but he tells you white. So then you look at white cars, and you notice that there's hundreds and hundreds of white cars between your house and work every day. So it's crazy that you notice that, but you didn't notice it until someone brought it to your attention. These people are all focusing on one thing, and unless they said, hey, look, there's somebody sitting out there, they never would have noticed. So it's very possible that she snuck right behind them without either one of those two having any idea.
We got in a conversation before we started recording. I cut you off earlier. I'm sorry, Spencer, about the ending. You were going into it. How does this thing end? And we still have a few other things to talk about besides the ending, but I want to go into that now since we're on this idea of writing, because we were saying, okay, how's this thing end, and what would I accept and not accept? What would irritate me, not irritate me? And you can pick it up where you were going, Spencer.
Well, it's you look at the guilt that Adam has. If that's a relationship that he's going to have with her, he can't hold on to that forever. So now fast forward, and him and Fia are getting more serious. He goes away to college. There's a lot of question marks where you don't know what's going to happen. Now Michael has done all these things. He's been corrupted. He's unless Jimmy Baxter's dead, like, he's still working with the Baxters, and now he's basically a judge in their pocket. So it's one of these things where you could continue it past this season, but it would basically be, Larry always makes the um, Breaking Bad reference where, the first season of Breaking Bad, it's kind of, Walter White he's doing something for what he feels are the right reasons, and then it goes way left. This could be a similarly written show, whereas he's trying to do this for all the right reasons. But even in this episode, we saw he will do anything. So it wouldn't be a stretch for this show to continue past season 1, but I'm really curious as to how they would do it.
What if Michael becomes a federal judge at the end?
that would be a good twist, because that would, it would elevate Jimmy Baxter's status instead of just a New Orleans.
Well, okay,
it would make Michael harder to touch.
Let's touch on that though. Talking about the way this thing ended. So current for this moment in time, Michael is Jimmy's inside guy. He's a judge, but he's serving Jimmy. That could be a way to continue the show potentially, or is Michael going to play it to where Jimmy gets taken down? I mean, it can go either way, but thinking about, okay, if this were to go a second season, how would you do it? What do you think about that idea?
I got to say this much though. I think I think that Michael, at least if he doesn't know about Jimmy's temper, if he learns about Jimmy's temper, his assumption will probably be that there's no way I can appease him for more than until his son's off scot-free, and then he'll find a reason to kill me. Eventually, he's going to find a reason. So it would have to be that dance for a season.
That's a great point.
That was a season. There was a similar season like that of Breaking Bad, by the way. But Michael would have to find little ways to appease him and to stop, what is essentially, like you said, his boss from killing him in certain ways, because he's working for Jimmy now to do this thing. But then eventually, while he's doing that, he'd have to come up with a plan to kill Jimmy Baxter, or to get Jimmy Baxter off his back for some reason to make himself untouchable. So he'd have to get his way out. He'd have to get, Jimmy out of his hair somehow at some point.
Carlo, besides being about to be put on trial for murder of Kofi, he's making deals, and clearly these deals are behind Jimmy's back. Gina seems to have an idea. There's a little scene where he's like, "Oh, we're moving some lettuce," and she's like, "I'll make sure nobody bothers you." So clear, she seems to know something. Maybe she doesn't know all the details, but she knows he's up to something. He's getting into the drug game, and he's working directly with Desire Crew, and there's some exchange of money, some product. There's talk about a bigger, deal being made, and we see in the preview that this is still going on, even though Carlo's in trouble. Where the Desire Crew? That's a whole other element. Where do they play into this? And how does that go? I also like seeing, I forget his name again, Kofi's brother. Yeah, he's part of the gang, but clearly he's in a higher status because he's in the room when the deal's being made out. I don't know. I mean, it's messed up that he's in that life, but I sort of did smile for it because I was like, oh, he's moving up the ranks.
Well, yeah, it was a neat scene because you get to see that maybe and it's hard to tell him at that time and place, but it's like maybe she is going to get his revenge for him, especially with the things that she spells out there and that she's showing him. It's she's showing him how to play them. They clearly see some level of potential for them within their gang, and they're going to let him have his revenge. And that was almost seemed like it was a test in itself too, to see if he was going to be cool and collected enough to get revenge under their terms, and to do it the smart way that she's mentioning, like she said, like she mentioned, dividing the father and son.
Yeah, I think the Desire Crew angle is a big deal, and it also showed that although we thought that the what's her name, the mom's name, I don't remember her name,
Jimmy's
Gina?
wife.
Gina, that's right.
Gina.
I wanted to say Grace, but I was like, I know that's not right. But but Gina, she is clearly just undermining Jimmy the whole time. For her to, Jimmy told Carlo directly, "Hey, do not do that. Are you planning something?" Because, him being the leader of this organized crime unit, for him to not know what's going on, which now clearly he doesn't. He thinks that Jimmy's on the up and up now, or that Carlo's on the up and up. He's not, doing anything now. But for him to go from what he's doing for the mom to help him and kind of put him on that track, it, I don't know. You talk about uncontrollable anger, Larry. What does
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy do when he finds out that Gina is in on the son getting into selling more drugs, to being into the organized aspect of crime? I, I don't know.
I, I was wondering the exact same thing because given his temper, like and we saw that he definitely checks it, in a lot of those arguments with his wife. But how far does that extend? Will he see that she's once again kind of running his organization behind his back, and also telling his people that they can ignore his orders? Will he respect that? Because that's a little different than her deciding to do her own thing. This is just outright saying ignore Jimmy. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we don't know what criminal activities Jimmy's really up to. We know he has his legit businesses. He has hotels. He's the Oyster King. We get more deep. We've gotten a little bit of that, but we get a little bit more of that in this episode. But we're not sure if he is really big into pushing drugs or whatever. Maybe there's certain things he doesn't want to get into, or he does, just he wants to be more careful about it. I don't know. They haven't gone into that.
yeah, we don't know what his organized crime element is, but clearly it's murder. That's one of those things that
Yes.
Like I guess a big part of it, well, I'll tell you one thing Jimmy's good at. We don't know what he does, but we know he's good at disrespecting houses because he definitely did that this episode.
Will you believe? I swear to you, Larry. The moment when he pissed on that toilet
You
seat,
thought
I
of
thought
me.
of you.
You
I
thought
did.
of me.
I did. I was like, man, Larry would be so mad if he came
Well,
home and saw that shit.
I put it this way: if I was Michael during that scene where Jimmy's confronting me, and if I realized it was him that disrespected my house like that, one of us would have died. Just,
it, it would have just been funny if Michael lost his shit on Adam. Just been like, quit pissing on the goddamn toilet seat. Adam's
Yeah,
like, what? That hasn't been here all day.
he's messing with family pictures. He's peeing on the toilet seat. He's poking holes in your cutting board and messing up your knife. It's just it's one of those things. It's a level of intentional disrespect for your place.
yeah.
Well, all of that's now, I don't know if it'll come back to it, but we talk about DNA. We have Jimmy Baxter's DNA all over the house, between the blood and everything else, because he cut his finger. If the detective ever gets a warrant to search the house and finds that bloody rag that was in the car, it could literally look like they're framing the judge now. The Jimmy Baxter is framing the judge.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, absolutely. There's
Oh, and
going to be the boat.
Yeah,
He did lease out that boat. That might come into question.
yeah, there's
well,
a
yeah.
lot of question marks now.
That's a really good point, and that may be Michael's out, and that may be what because I feel like the speech alluded to something that there may be an out for Michael and his son, or one of them at least, and that may well be it. The fact that Jimmy Baxter felt this need to disrespect him, maybe maybe his downfall, because it's the sort of thing that his DNA is everywhere now, and his friend the detective who thinks the world of him, and seems to, while she has a lot of evidence on hand, seems to subconsciously want to believe that, nah, he couldn't be involved. No, he's too good a guy. Now she's got her out. It was Jimmy Baxter. Jimmy Baxter's been blackmailing him this whole time. Jimmy Baxter's been trying to intimidate him into doing things. One of Jimmy Baxter's boys, Desire Crew. Yeah, they stole the car and they killed the kid, but they did it to get back at Jimmy Baxter because they knew about this little arrangement. Just something along those lines. He may be able to spin this in some way. I'm not sure how yet, 100%, but chances are he may be able to use this because Michael killing Jimmy himself. Maybe if it's just him and Jimmy in the room, or maybe it's just if it's just him and his number two, he may be able to kill his number two. But as far as getting out the rest of it, I feel like Michael's going to have to rely on his what we've seen seems to be a natural skill set for him. His ability to lie and to manipulate people via those lies.
He's like, you pissed on my toilet. You took a picture of my dog.
Right? Like you're messing with family photos. You're eating my grapes. Like you're Jimmy Baxter. You can afford better grapes.
I even thought about the grape. I was like, I don't know why, but that would irritate Larry. He took one grape and then washed it, and
he didn't even.
He said it was the disrespect.
You know what I thought he was going to do? I thought, after he rinsed off his hands, I thought he was going to like shake his hands off at the mirror and everything. Just get water all over and soap residue.
Oh man, slice into some of his avocados. Oh, there was another scene not like that, but did y'all want to make a sandwich after he made that sandwich and him and Michael and Adam were eating? I was like, damn, I want a sandwich.
Yeah,
like the way Cranston puts together the sandwich and the lettuce and he bites the end of that shit. I was like, damn, it was just a well done scene. And then I thought, man, if they messed up. How many sandwiches did they eat and make in this sequence, or did he nail it on one take?
That's okay. They just had all the sandwiches.
It's like I messed up on this one. I'll eat it. Can we try again?
How many did they intentionally mess up? Like it's halfway through eating a sandwich and like, oh, we got to take another take. Oh darn.
There's 4 characters. We already talked about one, so there's 3 characters I want to mention. I will mention the 4th one too, and go through. Okay, we're about to go to trial. Michael's going to be the judge. He's going to be trying his damnedest to get Carlo off, right? Off of the charges. Charlie, Lee, Nancy, and then the senator, his mother-in-law, potentially. This is going to be interesting. How are these characters going to deal with this? Because at some point, maybe not initially, but at some point it's going to have to be obvious that he's working to help Carlo. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. At some point they're going to figure it out or figure something is off. And what happens? How do these characters react? And where does this go?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. His friends and family are too smart for him to pull that off, because especially Lee and his friend who's a detective, they'll know right away. And of course, the mother-in-law, if she's paying attention to the trial, they'll know right away something's up. Why didn't Michael see through this obvious lie? Why didn't Michael, convict him for this reason? Or why was that sentence so light when he did sentence him? Why did he?
If he's blocking evidence or whatever he's doing, yeah.
It's like, why does he seem to be trying to extend this trial?
Yeah, we haven't seen the senator since that episode, so I think that she's going to come back and play an important role in all of this. I don't know how much of a role, but for them to even mention who she is, show her, and all this stuff, I think that it's going to play a very important role here very soon. And like you said, the lawyer, she's getting all this information. She's starting to, connect the dots too. So at what point are these people going to figure everything out and then just be like, well, it was for the greater good anyway. The Baxters are pieces of shit. Or are they going to, try to basically get Michael and Adam in trouble also? Like, are they going to let it go? Or are they going to figure it out and, try to get them hemmed up too?
Well, yeah, and that's the sort of thing. I feel like if anybody, Adam may get away with things, partially because his grandmother's a senator, senator. Like his father is sinister. I was about to say his father is starting to get pretty sinister. Like, but Adam may get off scot-free, and it may be the sort of thing where, as we said, he's left to live with the guilt. And if him and Jimmy's daughter are left none the wiser, it could be the sort of thing where, he goes to NYU, she goes to her school. You know, they meet up during their breaks or whatever, and you know, we have an ending where like she's calling him and asking if he's gonna attend the memorial with her, for like her dad and everything, and he knows that his father's killed Jimmy, and and that he's gotten killed in the process, and Adam just has to live with the guilt. And for once in his life, he's learned to just kind of let things go and to be quiet. Now he's the one keeping the horrible secret because of the fallout from it that he didn't previously seem to really understand.
Yeah, I was going to say the 200-mile long-distance relationship always works good with 17, 18-year-olds.
Right? Well, on TV.
He'll crank up his Joy Division and he'll make it work.
Yeah, all those classic jams from his youth.
A character that did not appear at all, the teacher. Does she? We still have a handful of episodes left. That's why I brought up the senator. I'm pretty sure she'll play in. Otherwise, like you said, Spencer, why bring her up? Why bring her into the show? The teacher, that's gonna. I'm assuming that's gonna play a big role as well. Now that he has a girlfriend, someone that he is connecting with emotionally, is there going to be jealousy, or do you think the teacher was in love with him, or was it just a physical thing? Like, what exactly is there, and where does that, how does that play in potentially?
I don't know if she was in love or not, but what I was thinking is that she may do it to save her own ass. She may end up, they may find out that she was fucking Adam or having sex with another student or something, and she may come clean and be like, well, I know this. And it may be her way of saving her own ass. That's the only way I can think that it would come back up with her, because to me, like you said, a jealousy thing. It may be that she may come down on him and be like, hey, you got to break up with her, or I'll tell everybody what I know. But the thing that made the most sense to me, because it's about law and how it can get very gray areaed very quickly, that would be a way for her to save her own ass, and that would bring a different kind of heat. These kind of things are, to me, potentials for multiple seasons, because even if she doesn't come back this season, if they do more seasons, you could still have that kind of hanging over the head.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's the sort of thing like, what if whatever fallout they have and everything, and what if Adam, feels pieces things together and just kind of, just emotionally, and he's like, you were using me, you never actually cared about me, you took advantage of my mother's death, so to hell with you. And they have that argument, and it's very public, and she responds with, oh yeah, well, you think you're better than me? She's like, at least I'm not a damn murderer, and she's shoving him and everything, and and that's on camera, or at least that raises enough suspicion that the media takes notice, or just it's like, wait a minute, she called him a murderer. Like, isn't that kid whose car was involved in the murder of Jimmy Baxter's son? Wait, did he do this?
Yeah, yeah, something like that, absolutely. Because I do believe, I mean, clearly, that plot line is gonna have some point to it. But if we do go into a second season, so let me go into that. There's so many plot lines now, and I want them to be resolved. But if I find out there is a second season, I don't need them to be, because it'll be addressed later. But if there's not a plan for a second season, I hope everything is resolved in a way that doesn't irritate me.
Yeah, just resolved. Even if I don't necessarily agree with how they did it, as long as they don't leave me with a bunch of, because we were talking about, there hasn't been a whole lot of the red herrings. Everything in this has made sense so far, but as the show has progressed, they keep adding more and more plot line that it's going to be hard.
Lovecraft Country, I don't know if we're getting a second season, man, and it makes that finale worse if we don't, because I was, as much as I didn't care for the last 5 or 10 minutes of it, I thought, well, there's still a chance to address some of these things, and okay, if we get a second season, but I don't think we're getting a second season. So to me, that hurts that show a bit.
Yeah.
And
A
so
lot.
hopefully that doesn't happen here.
Here's
Yeah.
hoping, because definitely that would hurt the show a bit, at least in my opinion.
Well,
It definitely needs another season.
this one, there's still what, 4 episodes left, so
Yeah, we got 4. Yeah,
there's still ample time for them to tie up a lot of these loose ends.
4 hours. That's 2 feature-length films
Yeah,
worth of time. Yeah.
yeah, that's plenty of time to tie up. And the only things that are really loose at this point is the teacher. Everything else, I mean, they've added a couple more plot lines, but that's the only one they've really left hanging so far. The rest of them have been pretty tied up. I mean, the senator being there, her not being important really wouldn't be a loose end. It wouldn't be that big of a deal one way or the other. But the teacher really is. So I think that they could easily tie up that one extra storyline. But if they don't, then to me that would be a great plot line for season 2, or further story. So I do hope that there is a season 2, but like you said, they can easily tie it up, and I hope that they do if their plan is just basically like a mini series as opposed to multiple season arcs.
Well, I will say what I said was a little bit of a slip on my part, because we were talking about Lovecraft Country for a second, and I accidentally like when I said it needs a second season, I more meant Lovecraft Country than this show. Like, what this show needs is a good final, like a good final 2 episodes or so that really wrap things up, or a second season. Because if we don't get a lot of these things resolved properly, if some of these loose threads are still there, if we still have this detective very suspicious, and yet Michael hasn't managed to tie this up without a reasonable doubt that there's nothing they can do about it, then we need a second season to some degree. But they could definitely end this one.
Perry Mason did a great job where its first season ended in a way where if they make more, awesome. They set up, but it closed out all the plot lines mostly, so that they wrapped up that story. So you felt like if they don't make any more seasons, we're good. If they make more, we're good. That final episode was just very well written, and I'm hoping that this is the same. But like I said, we still got 4 episodes, so we have time to do some of these things. That's about it. Really, anything else you guys want to talk about? The Ed, I thought Ed was played very well, and the character had dementia, and there was a moment where I didn't think he was connected to it at all, and I thought it was just going to be a moment for Michael to just sort of unload all of his stress, and just sort of a nice little emotional moment for him. And then of course it started as that, and then it led to Trevor. But where did you guys think that scene was going?
I thought both. At first, I thought it was, well, his kid has a scar. He has dementia. He doesn't know. But then when he started mentioning that he had dementia, I was like, oh, maybe he's not connected. Maybe this is just going to be his ability to basically be honest and kind of unload everything with somebody who's not going to remember 10 minutes from now. So I went from thinking it was related to thinking it was unrelated to back to being confirmed that it is related. It was a nice little roller coaster.
Yeah, 100% that. I think we were in sync on this one. Where initially I was like, oh, I see where this was going, and then they threw me off, and I was like, okay, so it's just a bit of catharsis for Michael, and then afterwards it's like, oh, okay, so it is like a relative of his or a son or something. All right, cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice scene. Yeah. So, anything else you guys want to discuss about episode 6 of Your Honor?
Well, I would like to say that scene was a nice touch, because that's one of the few scenes that really just truly gives us a look inside, Michael's head, unfiltered. He's not trying to lie. He's not trying to cover. He's not, trying to take on whatever persona or sort of mask that he needs to in his day-to-day life. That's just him. It was neat to see this character for once, who's for much of the series very closely guarded, or never really letting his feelings be 100% known, just express what he's been going through and where his head is at right now.
It reminded me a little of the scene from last week. It was different, but the scene with Adam and Fia in the diner, because it's a really long scene, but it's just him. At first, there's sort of the creepiness that he stalked her and he found her, but then there's a moment where that sort of goes away and he's legitimate. There's a flirting, and you almost think that he's forgotten himself and that they're just two people, interacting. And I thought it was a nice scene for Adam. It starts creepy, and then
Yeah.
Adam's a very interesting character. The deeper we get into this, and and sometimes I'm like, what the hell, dude? But then when you really step back and you think about everything, you're like, a lot of horrible shit's happened to this guy, and it's not all his fault. Fia is, but he didn't mean to kill Rocco and at all. That was a complete accident. His mother, she was taken from him as well when he was super young. This teacher clearly was preying on that and started this relationship with him. So he's had a lot of crazy shit happen to him that's led him to where he's at. So,
well, I think if you look at just that, look at what his dad did. He was willing to turn himself in. He was like, you know what? Let's do the right thing. I don't want to live with this guilt for forever. And then his dad, who was a judge, turned around and said, nope, let's go, because of who it was that they killed. So, like you talked about, he has it coming from multiple angles. And then the last person on earth who he would probably think that would do something like this is the one who's kind of leading him down this very bad path. And you talk about shitty circumstances. It just keeps getting worse for him.
Well, yeah, and he seems like, outside these two major traumas, and they are pretty big traumas, the death of his mother and then the murder he committed. He seems like the type of person who has had a very privileged life, and it hasn't had to worry about much or need for much, or like navigate any of the day-to-day problems that a kid his age with less resources would have. So he has these two major things which he doesn't know how to handle, and usually he can always talk about whatever is on his mind, especially probably with his dad and everything. And if not, he has his art and his photography that he can turn to. There's never been a reason why he can't do those things. And now he has these two major outlets that he can't use for things that, chances are were things that he took up to cope with the death of his mother, if anything. And now it's like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. What we need you to do is probably the opposite of what we asked you to do when your mother passed. We need you to pretend like shit is normal. Like, we need you to lie. We need you to hide things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And in this show, I was hoping Kofi, his death clearly was very important to the plot at this point, but he was a character that I was hoping we would also get more time with, and seeing, him coming up with his situation and doing what he had to do and all the bullshit that he had to deal with. Now we're seeing it through his brother, but we're not getting as much. Was it Eugene?
Yes.
We're getting a little bit of him. Maybe we'll get more in the next 4 episodes. I think you're right, Larry. I think there is a plot, and there is they're helping him set him up so that he can get his revenge, and I hope that's what happens, and that would be very satisfying if that plays out that way. Last thing, does Adam survive the season? What are your if you had to bet money on it right now, does Adam survive the season?
I think it depends on whether or not we know if there's season 2. If there's no season 2, then I would say no. If there is a season 2, then I'd say yes, because there's a lot of storylines you can wrap up with that or add to that. I think if they took him out this season 2 would be. I'm not saying that it couldn't be done, because this has been pretty well written so far. I think that they could probably find a way to make it still work, but I think that you would be taking away an awful lot of storylines if you take him out. But if this is a 1-season miniseries, I don't think he makes it.
I say it'll be Adam or Michael. I don't think it'll be both, especially if, like Spencer said, if it's 1 season, there's I don't think there's any way that both of them survive. One of these two is going to die. I don't see a way that they both come out of this okay. But if we extend this to another season, yeah, probably both. They'll probably both survive. Adam will realize to some degree the mess he's tangled himself in, which he might be getting a reality check on that fairly soon anyway. Especially since Jimmy's daughter is talking about taking him to dinner. But if this is the only season they're doing, it's a coin toss right now. I'm not really sure.
I only ask because when you boil down everything, you realize all targets lead to Adam. Like, you know what I mean? From the teacher not wanting her stuff to get out to Jimmy, Gina, Carlo, even Fia. They're all going to want him dead. Desire Crew might even want him dead. If they find out the truth. So there's a lot of targets on his back.
Well, and and that may lead back to another one of Michael's speeches that he gave during the show. The when he's talking to his blackmailer's father, and he's talking about the things you do because you love your kids, and like that may be Michael's sacrifice there in the end, saying that it was all him, and just kind of pinning this whole thing on himself in order to save his son.
I could see that. Anything else, guys?
Well, the Bears and Saints game's on right now. And this is the show's set in New Orleans, and right now they're winning. So hopefully they don't win. I'm a Bears fan, but who knows? I'm not very hopeful for the Bears winning this, but I just wanted to say that.
All right. So thanks for listening. We will see y'all next time. Look out for there's a lot of content coming. We got 30 coins this week. The Stand. We have WandaVision starts this week, so look out for that. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Go Bears.